Hi everybody, welcome to Rad Paranormal, again, episode whatever. Tonight we're going to be discussing some ghost stories that we have. And again we have Alexis, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Alright, so we have a user story, and then we have some stories that we have from across the web. Before we get into that, we do want to talk about our downtown tour that is, it's chugging along. In September, we're going to start doing some dry runs, and then October we'll be going full bore with our with our downtown ghost tour. So if you guys are interested in that. All right, and we did do some canvassing. We got some interesting stories from downtown that we will be sharing on the tour. All right, so when she gets back, I'll let her start with the stories because I have to pull up the user story first.
Sure, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and let you start with your story.
Sure, let me start with one of the short ones I found. Alright, so this person's post was titled, I need help identifying a ghost/a demon. So it says, me and my girlfriend moved into a new home and have been experiencing increasingly weird happenings. To summarize the onset on how I've come to deal with this ghost. Now onto the description, I've looked up the different types of spirits and mine seems to fit the bill for several different ones. He, based on the male energy it exudes, is a blacked out shadow person who stands in doorways, slams doors and cabinets, randomly opens the door when you're in a room, and frequently touches or speaks to my girlfriend and our roommate. He also has been known to manifest as a pair of eyes, glowing in dark rooms with no light or animals. This ghost does not bother me much, and if he does, it's always something small, like opening a door or standing in a dark corner. For my girlfriend and our roommate, however, things are very different. He speaks to them in complete gibberish, he whistles when I'm out at work or asleep, and he violently opens doors in their presence. The only thing that can seemingly calm him down is me waking up or getting home, in which all activity stops, and he resumes his minor antics. My cousin, who is extremely pagan, thinks that my energy is overpowering him, which would cross him off as a demon, but my knowledge, it passes the realm of a poltergeist, but does not go as far as a demon. So what the hell am I dealing with?
So for me in particular, I know I personally am not a fan of the idea of demons.
Right.
Because I'm not religious. I don't think I believe there's malicious entities. I don't believe so much in demons.
And I don't think that's that he's saying, like, in this does anything religious, like it's not tied up in any of that.
So I mean, he could just have something there messing with him. I mean, just because it's there doesn't mean it's demonic.
Right, and the fact that it doesn't really mess with him and only messes with other people, I mean, maybe it just, if he doesn't react to it, it's not gonna care about him.
Right. I mean, I don't. That could be something there. I just don't believe that it's anything malicious. I think it's just they're either trying to get your attention or it's not scratching you. It's not doing anything bad.
Right, and even just, slamming doors and stuff, that's just like, hey, I'm here, I'm making a loud noise.
Yeah. And that's another thing of, like, Hollywood and TV and everything making people think everything that's paranormal is a demon.
Right.
I mean, speaking of the movie that just came out today, The Conjuring, whatever number it is, I do want to watch that. It's on HBO Max. I'm gonna watch it, but not everything's a demon.
Yeah. I wonder if people, like, kind of discredit, like, Ed and Lorraine Lauren now that, like, they're movie characters now.
I mean, a lot of people question them pretty hard. I don't think they've lost any credibility. I mean, it's Hollywood. Everybody, well,
right.
Most people know that everything in the movie says, if it says it's based on a true story, it's extremely exaggerated. They could take one little chunk and make it into a whole movie.
Right, exactly. They can keep the names of the characters and change everything else.
Right. Like, I watched, what was it, Haunting of Connecticut 2, and they based it on an Unsolved Mysteries episode. Not even a whole episode, just like one little 10-minute segment about this little girl who saw Mr. Gordy and I forgot the other guy's name, and they were pleasant entities, and there was one slightly negative thing, but they spun it into a whole movie. Like a little 15-minute segment is now a 2-hour movie where everything's evil, and the only thing that stayed was the good one's name was Mr. Gordy. So I mean, it can say based on a true story, but it's really not. It might a little nugget of truth in there. So the story that I have is actually sent in from somebody that you tagged. I won't say the name. And it says, so I moved from Palm Bay to New Orleans. Okay, screams paranormal. New Orleans.
Good start.
Yeah. When I moved, the first restaurant I worked at was called Kingfish. It was on the corner of, I'm going to butcher these names, Chartres and Conti. This place was definitely haunted. It was comprised of 4 areas. The main dining room and the primary kitchen were all in one building. There was a small courtyard off the main dining room, and surrounding that was a private dining room with a small kitchen attached to put out large banquet-style dinners and separate prep kitchen. In the main kitchen, there was the usual activity. We had high shelves that we would put certain products on. They were knocked off multiple times, not just like slid off the shelf, but flew 3 or 4 feet off the shelf multiple times. Cambro lids would fly off top of people when they were passing under. One night, I was cleaning the banquet kitchen after an event had taken place in the private dining room. I had heard the private dining room was legitimately haunted and assumed it was just a joke to scare the new person who had just moved to the city. I was pretty much done cleaning. I had to sweep and mop the small kitchen, and I was out. I was starting my sweep when I heard chairs sliding in the dining room. I had figured it was a server who had to finish something and didn't think about it again. I heard the door behind me slam and jerked around to see that it had slammed open. When I turned to look at it, the sink that was now at my back turned on. When I turned to look at that, the door slammed itself shut. At that point, my bowels clenched. I put the broom down and walked out of the restaurant. Told my chef I'd finished cleaning in the morning and went home. I got a call about 30 minutes later when the sous chef watched the security cameras in there and told me to come back late the next morning. So that seems like an interesting night at work.
Yeah, it's spinning him around. Every time he looks one direction, it's doing something like, hey, look over here.
Yeah. So like it drags the chairs out from the table when he's not in there, so he turns around and the door slams open. And then after that happens, the sink behind him turns on, so he turns around to look at that, and then the door slams shut behind him on that time. So it's like two that are just messing with him.
Right, he thought his coworkers were hazing him. I think that spirit's hazing him.
So, I mean, with that, I know that like wind gusts, and I don't know the particular aerodynamics of that particular room, but wind gusts or AC can make a door like slam shut or open, but it wouldn't slam open and then slam shut, and then the gust wouldn't affect the sink or the chairs. So
we also know too, restaurants, banquet halls, kitchen, those are all very high energy areas. So there's a bunch of people celebrating or doing whatever, you know, that's a lot of energy to fuel anything.
Right. And I mean, it's New Orleans. They're famous for their activity down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's really cool.
And you said you had another one?
Yeah, I have another one. This one is a little bit longer than the other one. It was titled Radio Guy.
Okay.
Open it up. All right, so it started back in 2010 with my mother and my sister. They started hearing strange voices and claimed it sounded like someone turned on the TV to a staticky station and turned the volume to a low setting. where you know it's on, but it's not really there, sort of thing. Strangely, they said they heard it in the kitchen and at times the bathroom. It's continued for years. I believed them, but I was skeptical. Flash forward a few years, I came home from the military permanently. After a handful of weeks, I started to get that staticky, distant TV sound too, as they did. I heard it in the same places they claimed to have heard it. They lovingly call him Radio Guy. Apparently, they've sort of made friends with him. This goes on for a while, just hearing the odd sound of someone trying to speak, but all we get is static. Continues for a few more weeks. We start to smell things now. We assume it's Radio Guy. We smell cigar smoke, coffee being brewed, and breakfast, like full eggs, bacon, toast kind of breakfast, although no one's cooking, making coffee, or smoking cigars. Oddly enough, the house they lived in was one of the classic cookie-cutter houses built during the Depression into the start of World War II. Low-income, low-rent housing kind of areas. So it very well could have been a fellow that lived there during that time and loved him some breakfast, a hot pot of dough, and enjoyed a stogie. We learned to live with Radio Guy, not really making out any voices for years, until my sister and I got the idea to use smartphones as an EVP device. And once we would get the vibe of Radio Guy, we would whip out our phones and attempt to talk to him. Got nothing except for one time we got Hello Family. We were excited as hell, even though we got that from him, but then we thought, what family? Was he talking about us or a family of his own? We're sure he was an intelligent or a residual being, so we are back to square one. We sort of just lived with Radio Guy for the better part of a decade. An odd occurrence that happened, though, was one night I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. I woke up for some reason, sit up, and in the hallway is a red mist. I noticed it, asked what it is, and it drifts into my nephew's room. His room is the first door on the hallway, so I get up, investigate, nothing. No red mist, no weird vibes, and no more Radio Guy after that night.
I've never heard about an entity presenting itself as a red mist, and I don't really know what that could be unless it's like a weird red light coming in from a window and reflecting off of dust.
Right. I mean, it is an old house, so...
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything, but the Hello Family seems pretty cool. I'd be pretty excited if I heard that as well.
Yeah, I'd be really excited. And especially since he's pretty consistent. He does the same things. He's only heard in the same rooms. And especially smelling, that's a big thing too, right? Smelling smells that aren't normally there, especially if you're smelling cigars in a house where no one smokes. You know, where really would that be coming from? Right. But yeah, I'd never, that was really interesting because I'd never really heard of any stories where, you know, in live time you were hearing with your ears like that radio static sound. You hear it all the time on EVPs, but you don't hear that with your ears. Right. So I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's a good story. It's a shame that it kind of stopped interacting after that. But I mean, it's a shame, but it's not, because then it means it's moved on. If maybe it moved on. Yeah. All right, so I have I'll start with my sort of long one, just because the title itself is what drew me to this story, and it's the title of the thread is "A Concerned Parent Here, Need Help Please." And all the stories that I'm reading today, I haven't read myself. I just read the titles because I wanted to have my initial reaction on camera as well.
Got it, yeah.
All right. Since my fiance started working second shift, I started having my 3-year-old and 1-year-old sleep in the bed with me. Something scary happened last Tuesday night at 11:30 p.m. My son CJ woke up from his nap, crying and scared. I asked what's wrong. He didn't stop pointing at the corner. It's creepy already. I used my phone flashlight, which wasn't really helping because the corner was still dark. He has never freaked out that bad before, so I started getting scared. I FaceTime my fiance, and you know how you FaceTime someone and your flashlight turns off when they pick up? Yeah, once the flashlight went out, CJ was freaking out bad. He then started acting like whatever he was seeing at the corner of the room was moving closer to the end of the bed. The way you can see the terror in his eyes as his eyes were slowly moving with its movements toward us at the end of the bed, as if it was moving closer to us. Sorry if I'm messing that up. The writing's kind of weird.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
CJ was freaking out so bad, scrambling to the corner of the bed, trying to get away from it. He wouldn't stop screaming for me, even though I was trying to help him. I was getting terrified myself, so I turned on the TV. He calmed down a bit, but I had to click on the app KidsTube, and as it was loading up, the screen went dark. Once the room went dark again, CJ started freaking out worse again at whatever he was looking at the end of our bed. I finally got his favorite cartoon on, and he finally calmed down and cuddled up with me. He started watching TV until he eventually fell back to sleep. But oh my god, when the small kid sees something, you just gotta believe them. I was so scared I left the TV on until my fiance got home. CJ sometimes wakes up from a night terror and is pointing up the corner, but I usually cuddle back up with him to sleep. That stopped for months. Then out of nowhere, last Tuesday night, it was like something new showed itself to my son. And this was the same corner my 1-year-old daughter used to smile and laugh with. But this was the worst CJ has ever freaked out. Since that night, almost every single night, he would wake up at 11:30 p.m. crying and scared, looking at something. It makes it more legit because it's consistent on time every night. It never fails to show up on time to scare my child. Like, why 11:30? Why is it terrorizing my son? I am more concerned now because last night at 11:30 p.m. my son woke up scared and crying, but was answering yes to whatever he was looking at the end of our bed. I believe he's seeing something that's terrorizing him. My mom has history with seeing spirits. She can walk into a house and take her time reading the place to know what kind of spirits and how many are in the home. My older brother has history of experiencing weird shit too, so I know my son is gifted because it runs in his blood. I want this to stop. It's in the bedroom of the house. I know it is. The house has been in my fiance's family for over a few decades. His niece, who's 18 years old now, used to talk to someone in the same exact bedroom when she was small. His nephew, who's 5 years old now, used to call somebody by the name Abby in the exact same room. And my fiance's little brother, who's 24 now, used to sit and ask his parents about the old man in the bedroom when there was no old man. My fiance says they have gotten monks to bless the home so many times already. Please advise. Okay, please. I'm gonna say advise. And helping my son would be appreciated. Any advice in helping my son would be appreciated. I am so stressed and worried. I apologize if I'm not making sense in some areas. I understand. I am losing sleep. Edit, I forgot to mention that he won't take his eyes off whatever he's looking at. I tried to get him to face the other way or go under the covers, but he refused to take his eyes off of it. I mean, I could see how that would be concerning.
First of all, I hate that. That's terrible.
Yeah, you're about to experience some creepy shit yourself soon.
Oh my god. Please. Yeah, and that's terrifying. Second of all, the fact that it's, like you said, it's at the same time every night, like, consistent. And then also with other children in the family, like, the same thing. That's, yeah.
The same thing in the same room.
I mean, and I guess, like, for the most part, it's not harmful. Like, it's not doing anything. But it obviously is scary looking.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, it may not even mean to be scaring the kid, but it is. Like, because the other kids only talk to it.
Right, that's true. One of them, like, waved and laughed, so, you know, that's true. It could just be there, and some kids like it, some kids don't, but, yeah, there's always a lot of, like, credibility to those stories, just because I know we've talked about this before, but, like, kids have that ability, right? Like, they see more than we do. As far as into that realm, they're more in touch with that. So
Ooh, excuse me. And yeah, the whole it's in his blood. I mean, it can be, I guess, if that's he might be sensitive.
maybe, yeah, yeah. Who knows? But yeah, definitely there's a lot of stories about kids seeing stuff that we just can't anymore, which, yeah, terrifying, but also like maybe you don't want to see what they're seeing.
Yeah. If it scared him that bad, but I mean, it could just be somebody he doesn't recognize that's scaring him.
Right. Stranger. Yeah.
Luckily, Cora's never done any of that.
Good.
Knock on wood. Yet.
Right. Oh,
I mean, she said some creepy things. Like at one point, she was afraid that her toys were going to talk to her.
fair.
Like,
okay.
like terrified. Like, oh, what if they talk to me? But they're not going to.
Yeah. I'm terrified of those baby monitor walkie-talkies.
Those also pick up like radio
Radio
signals coming through.
At 3 a.m, that's still going to make me shit my pants. That would be terrifying.
Did you have? You said you had 3. Did you have one more?
Yeah. Let me see. Okay, so this one was just titled "Weird Occurrence." So I work as a support worker in a home for 2 individuals who live with intellectual disabilities. In this home, I often feel a weird presence in certain parts of the house and also a feeling I'm being watched. But anyway, the other night I was working the overnight support time. Both guys were sound asleep. I was in the kitchen fixing myself some tea, and I saw a blur run across the hallway outside of the kitchen out of the corner of my eye. Then the Google Assistant came on and immediately said, "What was that? I didn't catch what you were saying," which freaked me out. I felt as if there was someone standing behind me. There was nothing and no one around me. And it couldn't have been either of the individuals I care for in the home because both were sound asleep and also nonverbal. Anywhere, just wondering if anyone could help me make sense of this. So the reason I picked that one is because you'll have to refresh my memory, but I think when we were investigating Robbie's tattoo shop, at one point during the night, his Alexa device turned on, didn't it?
I believe so. And I mean, those things are so finicky.
Yeah, that's true.
Like any kind of noise will wake it up.
Yeah, that's true. But the thought that like the fact that he saw something and felt it at the same time it turned on just adds a little more of that to me. But I just thought that it reminded me of when that happened at Robbie's.
At Robbie's, I mean, I had a chair move next to me. So I mean,
right.
It could have to do with that. I mean, it would just act as a giant like voice recorder for the most part. Only one that can react to you. Maybe we should start bringing Alexas on investigations.
Right. Yeah. But I know how they're temperamental sometimes, but most of them have a wake word, right? So they're constantly listening, but something has to trigger that word to turn them on to say that.
Yeah, I think with Alexa you have to say Alexa, or with like Google you have to say, "Hey Google."
Right.
So yeah,
but
that's pretty creepy.
Yeah, the fact that it lines up with another incident, thought that was pretty cool.
And the fact that the residents that she has are nonverbal.
Right, it couldn't have been anyone else. Yeah.
I wonder if they have security cameras in there, since it is a...
That's true, like a care facility?
Yeah.
That's true.
Because that would be
I think
great.
Probably not. I think if they did have security cameras, that person would have reviewed them. I think.
Or maybe she doesn't have access to them.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
All right, the next one that I have a bunch. I'm going to cherry pick the ones that the headlines that stick out to me. Because again, for people watching, the stories that I have, I didn't read because I want to react to them on camera with you. So if you missed it, I read one that was called "A Concerned Parent Here Need Help." You can go back and listen to that one when we're done. This was actually this one that the next one that I'm going to read I picked because it's actually the story of the week on the Paranormal subreddit. And I'm sorry if you hear that cricket behind me. I tried to get rid of it like for 10 minutes and it didn't want to die.
I love it. It's for on.
And like my spider won't eat it. Like she thought I was in there trying to hurt her, so she's hiding now and not getting the cricket.
It's just.
It adds to the ambiance. Are you there? Yeah, there you are. Okay. It blanked out there for a second. So that story, I'll read that one. It's called Apparently I Babysat More Than One Kid.
Ooh.
Yep, it starts off, when I was 13, I babysat a little girl named Emma, one of the sweetest kids you could think of. I was a regular babysitter for her, so much so that when I couldn't babysit for a few months, she called all her other babysitters by my name. This happened after I came back to a regular babysitter to be a regular babysitter for her. It was about 10:30 at night, and I had already put Emma to bed and had been channel surfing. The house was I think she meant to put set. The house was set up so that the front half was an open concept to the living room, dining room, and kitchen. They were all side by side in between the living room and dining room, which had an open doorway to the back half of the house. At one end was Emma's room. At the other end was her parents', with the bedroom connected to the parents' room. So I guess their rooms were connected.
Okay.
It's hard to picture by the way it's worded. Now, while sitting on the couch, I heard something run down the hallway to the bathroom. Assuming it was just Emma going to the bathroom, I let it be for a few minutes. I let it be. It went by for a few minutes, and I heard the feet heading back down the hall. I turned to tell her to go back to bed and make sure she flushed, as I hadn't heard it flush, but I had only saw the tips of black hair that had run past the open doorway. Here's the problem. Emma is blonde.
Ah.
I quickly jumped up and rushed into Emma's bedroom, throwing open the door. Her nightlight bright enough to make her out as she sat up and looked at me, rubbing her eyes in confusion. I asked her if she had went to the bathroom. She shook her head. I did a once-over of her room, checking under the bed and a quick peek in her closet. I didn't see anything, and I just told Emma I was double-checking for monsters. Oh yeah, that's a great thing to tell the kid.
Right. I mean, at least you're being honest.
I tucked Emma back in, saying goodnight as I headed out of her room again, leaving it slightly open. I began to walk away, but stopped when I hear Emma speak. Thinking she was going to ask me something, I turned to listen, only to hear her say, "You should have said something. Don't scare her. I really like her." I didn't say anything to the mom about it and continued to babysit Emma until they moved away. I always made an effort after that to include the being. If Emma was drawing, an extra spot was always set up next to it, and it seemed to make Emma happy, and nothing ever startled me again.
Well, that's a pretty positive way to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's like...
I mean, little things presenting themselves to people in that particular way always kind of weird me out. Because a lot of things that present themselves as little kids or whatever usually aren't. They're usually malicious.
Yeah.
At least in my experience.
Yeah. I don't know. The fact that her kind of including it maybe appeased it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do anything further. I mean,
it made Emma happy.
Right. That's true. It made her happy. So at least it's not one of those situations like the other story where she's terrified of it. But yeah, that would be a little concerning.
Yeah. Especially you turn around and you see black hair running out of the bathroom and you're like, wait a minute. The kid that I'm babysitting isn't black hair.
Right. I think those parents would have to pay me for babysitting too.
The next one I have is very short, and I picked this one because of the headline, and I think it would be a good discussion topic. It's, how do I get my dead sister's ghost to visit me? And that's just sad, but it goes on. I miss her ass. Should I be leaving stuff out for her to come visit? She died a year and a half ago at 23. Sorry for sounding unhinged, but can I do something to make her spirit feel comfortable in my house in case she is wandering somewhere? I mean, if she hasn't showed herself to you yet, maybe she's just moved on. And that's probably for the best.
Right. That's a good thing, even though it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good thing. Yeah. But I get that. I mean, wanting that source of comfort. Because you hear all those stories of, oh, my grandma visited me after she passed. So-and-so visited me. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, it leads you to kind of want that, right? Because if you don't feel like you've had closure, that's really only your chance.
Yeah,
but
it leads to a lot of, why isn't she visiting me? Why? But I mean, if she isn't, like one of the top comments is, don't. Only way she can let go is if you let go.
Yeah, which is hard, but it'll be easier for them.
Yeah, so I mean, don't try and get her to come through, and don't resort to like. I don't believe in them, but don't resort to Ouija boards. I mean, those are a whole other thing for me. I won't get into it, but don't resort to doing stuff like that to try and pull her in. You might pull in something that claims to be her and it's not her.
Yeah, and even, I mean, if the sister was visiting you, right,
mm-hmm.
you would do things to try and bring her peace and let her go anyways.
Right.
Because you wouldn't want them to be stuck there. So it's hard, but it seems like it's a good thing.
This one is a little... Do you have another one, or I want me to go after this one?
I did have... Actually, I think I had one about a grandmother visiting after she passed.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So my great-grandma said goodbye. So this story is the most clear one to me, that we are energy and that we can say goodbye to our loved ones right before our death. So this one was before she died.
Okay.
I was 6 or 7 years old. It was probably 8 p.m. and my mom was putting me to bed, so she was laying sideways on my bed facing me and her back towards the door, and I was facing the door. From where you could see the bathroom's door. So my mom was reading me a story when all of a sudden I looked up and saw this ghost-like white bright figure drifting from the living room to the bathroom and entering there. I jumped from my position and told my mom what I had seen. She calmly stood up, held my hand, and started walking with me all over the apartment praying. She said, "You see, there is nothing here or there." But I could see her expression that she was worried. I went to sleep, and the next morning, my mom told me that around 12 a.m., my dad, who was separated from my mom but kept in good relationship, had gone to the apartment to tell her that his Nana, my great-grandmother, had passed away the night before. So my mom was in shock and obviously associated what I told her with my great-grandmother's passing.
Okay. I mean, at least that's not a scary story.
Right, yeah, no, that was not scary at all, but I thought that was cool how it seems like they're kind of saying that that visit was right before she passed.
Which, I mean...
It was like between...
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, like, if you follow a lot of paranormal stories, that does happen occasionally, where you'll get a message before they pass.
Right. And it does seem like they're usually in between for a while anyways, because a lot of people, as they're, passing, talk to or see relatives that have passed. So it seems like the veil or whatever is kind of thin at that point, and it can kind of communicate both ways.
Right. I mean, that's like there's a lot of stories too, like where, I got a phone call from my uncle, and then it turns out he died, like, he was already unconscious, and then he died shortly after.
Yeah, just as that last, and that's, I think that's great for them to be able to get that closure and then pass, instead of having to hang around here and try and get closure that way, because I mean, who knows how long it can take? Who knows really what that does to you as like as a spirit or as a person trying to kind of wander around and get that closure? Do you, I mean, I can't imagine you stay whole very long. You probably lose parts of yourself in that, you know, trying to make that happen, trying to get that closure. So I think it's great when there's stories like that where people can get that closure and pass peacefully.
I mean, I think Jackie's favorite show, Supernatural, touches on that, where it talks about there's like one episode where one of them dies, one of the many, and the Reaper's sitting there telling them, if you don't, you know, try and cross over now, you're going to be stuck and you'll end up being a malicious entity.
Yeah,
because you'll just go insane.
And I wonder if that's like when we experience like residual hauntings, like, you know, there's someone that just walked up and down the hallway forever. I wonder if that's someone who was never able to get closure and just kind of turned into this like robotic back and forth. They don't have a personality. They're just a memory, like back and forth.
I think that, or I think that's just, that can also be just like energy imprinted onto the area and you're just seeing it play in loop.
That's true. That's true.
All right, and we're at 38 minutes, so I'll go ahead and I'll do one last one.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is called Odd Occurrences in Our Home. Haunted? And it says, we bought our home almost 4 years ago. It was built in 1988. We've had some really odd things happen. I'll preface this by saying I have always felt very uneasy when I walk by my bedroom walk-in closet. I can't explain it other than I really don't like walking by it at night, and it makes me feel sick. It makes me have a sick feeling. For almost the whole time we've lived here, and we've heard anything from music to people talking to a woman humming at night, with no one but us here, but only when we are running the box fan at night. I read up on that, and folks were attributing the box fan to radio frequencies, etc., etc. So I accepted that. Now more things have happened, so not sure if that is a haunting or what. Here are some things that have happened as of late. My stepson has a very unique cackling laugh. In my whole 54 years, I have never heard anyone who cackle laughs like he does. He was not in the house and in another town 2.5 hours away. And my husband and I both heard him cackle laugh in broad daylight coming from upstairs when we were sitting downstairs. We were both wigged out and looked at each other and were saying, what the fuck, he's in Huntsville, not here. Our grandfather clock hasn't worked in over 2 years because it's not level and the chimes are not wound. We were sitting in the kitchen, also in broad daylight, and the grandfather clock struck 12 and chimed 12 times. It didn't work before that day and hasn't since. We had friends over, and some were sitting in the kitchen and some were standing, but no one was standing near our kitchen island. A cup that was in the middle of the island went flying across the island, slammed into the fridge, actually dented my new fridge, and ricocheted between the island and the fridge. This time our friends saw it. Everyone wigged out. A stack of books went flying off the island several days earlier that only one friend saw. My husband wasn't around to see it. Fast forward to last night. It usually takes me a long time to fall asleep because of the fan-imposed voice/music humming noises. I got up to go to the bathroom and got back in bed. Within 2 minutes of laying down, I felt someone sit right next to me. My husband was asleep, and it was only he and I at home. He was steadfast asleep. I was like, nope, not going to happen. Not going to open my eyes because who is it that just sat beside me? Then I heard 5 footsteps. Again, it was only us in the house. There were heavy footsteps like somebody wearing work boots. Could this be a haunting? And I don't know. If so, do I need a priest to come bless my home, or just sage the hell out of my house? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I mean,
Wow.
If you're that's a lot. if you're wanting it to stop, I mean, the first thing I would suggest doing is asking it to stop.
Right. I don't think the question should be, is it haunted? I think it's by what? It seems pretty clear. But yeah, first of all, the one thing that I noticed first, that's a lot of force for a cup to dent a fridge like that. Like, that's not just like, oh, sliding it on a counter. Mm-hmm. Like, it would take some force to dent a fridge.
Especially if it's like a new stainless steel fridge.
Right. And then a stack of books, that's heavy. That's a lot of force, too.
And they had witnesses, too. Like, the whole friend group apparently saw the whole thing happen. Right.
That's a lot. Now, with the fan making, like, a music sound, that part, I mean, you could maybe debunk that part, because your brain tries to make it'll make musical connections out of like repeating white noise like sounds, just as the same as like pareidolia, right? Where you try and make your brain tries to make a face out of shapes. Your brain tries to make a music out of sounds.
Yeah, we're wired to find familiar patterns and things that
exactly. So that part could be nothing. It's kind of unrelated. Could be nothing, but the rest of it's definitely something, especially the feeling weight, like sitting on a bed. Like, that would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
Would be scary.
Like, she even said that she attributed this, like she brought up the fact the fan was making those noises to other people, and then they attributed it to the motor and the metal picking up radio signal, which could be true. I have a box fan that runs 24/7. I've never had that happen, knock on wood.
That's pretty whack.
But the footsteps, I mean, that's pretty crazy. Especially if that something got up from your bed and you heard footsteps. I would open my eyes. Maybe somebody broke into your house.
The part that I really don't like is it copying her son's laugh. Mm-hmm. Really not cool with that.
Especially like that one, like, he's got a super individualistic laugh, and that copies that one laugh.
Right. I'm like, those make me so uncomfortable. Those stories of like them mimicking and like copying people, so uncomfortable.
I mean, usually those are attributed to malicious entities a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Right, because it's very manipulative, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that makes my skin crawl. I was as I was sifting through finding some of these stories, I did pass one of this person. This lady got a one of those Ring like cameras for outside her house. Mm-hmm. She kept picking up, her motion detector kept going off, and when she would review it, there would be like something outside talking at night that sounded like her.
Oh, that's
and I was like, oh no. Like, now I'm afraid to check my doorbell.
Like, it's trying to talk its way into the house.
Right. Like, oh, no. That's such a great thing, kind of a resource that we have, right, is doorbells, CCTV cameras, like all that stuff that kind of just, they're not biased. They're not, like, only recording when they want to. They're not like us when we only record when we're doing investigations. They're recording all the time, so they catch all that stuff that's unexpected. We had up at the shop, we had reviewed the CCTV footage before for there because I know in a couple instances people had, like my dad and I had someone say, "Hey," behind us, like audibly, and we reviewed the camera to see that like no one was there, no one could have said that. So it's a good resource to have to kind of debunk yourself and things that you hear, and to pick up on things that we would have otherwise missed. Mm-hmm.
See, we'll eventually get in there.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring it around to the end now. So we'll wrap up since we know a lot of attention spans that we've talked a lot today. We're almost at an hour.
Oh man.
Yeah, we're at like 46 minutes. So if you guys have some stories you want us to talk about, or if you have any kind of topic you want us to cover, send us a message or comment on the video and let us know. I am trying to get us one guest. That team that I mentioned from the UK, I'm trying to work out a time because of the time difference is pretty radical.
Right.
So it's a matter of finding a day and a time that we can all connect and do a quick little meeting to get some of their experiences out there and how the differences between investigating in the UK versus investigating here in the US.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be really awesome.
Yeah, so if there's guests you want us to have on, if there's stories you want us to hear, or a subject you want us to cover, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. We're always open to see what everyone wants us to talk about. What do you know, anything, stories that they have, anything. We're definitely open to that. I think it's cool to see what other people are, because everyone has a niche, right? In paranormal, everyone has their favorite. So it would be good to see what other people want instead of just talking about what we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we'll just talk what we want to talk about regardless.
Right.
But yeah, be sure to check for our dry run tours here in September and watch for our full bore tours here coming up in October. And if you want to hear more discussion on things that are not related to the paranormal, that are more related to like mental health and motivation and grieving loss and connecting to music, all sorts of stuff, I also run a podcast called Rad Things. And I run that with Robbie Ripple. But thank you guys. Oh yeah, go, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, I said we got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah. All right, guys. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We also will be putting this on our Anchor, which the link is right there, and you can go to radparanormal.com up there, and you can re-listen to it there on our social tab. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and again, send us the stuff you want to hear, send us the people you want to see, and any experiences you have.
Yes, please.
And we'll see you again in about 2 weeks.